I'm not telling in a egoistic perspective. I'm telling as just, I'm part of this culture. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a good culture. We all have our different cultures.
But I used to go to churches. So yeah, I used to go church for 4 or 5 years. So yeah, I liked that also.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Oh, we don't have Keith yet. Did anybody see Keith? I guess he didn't.
No, he may not be here tonight, or he may not be till later, whatever.
Yeah, he's not. I'm just checking. I don't see him.
Yeah, he usually pops in a little bit later.
Yeah.
May I know the name? 170-389-53286.
That's Beth.
Beth.
Yeah, Beth.
Hi, Rumi. Hi, Romy.
Hi, Beth.
Romy.
Yeah. Thank you. Hello.
I just saw a notice that, Dear Kathleen, is there a meeting tonight? And I forget the name. Someone I don't know.
Oh,
It
yeah.
flashed on my screen.
Okay. Last time also you didn't.
Oh, I didn't get that, so I don't know.
It just flashed on my screen. It's gone.
Oh, it flashed on the screen, so it could be that the chat thing. Is that what you're talking about? Oh no, no, there's nobody chatting. You know how Mary sometimes does when she's here? She'll pop up in the group chat and have a little chat. But that's what I thought you were talking about. But she's not there.
No, she's not there.
John. Okay. John,
Yes.
good thing about after attending last talk, the good thing is I'm listening the bhajans every day.
Oh, good.
From morning and evening.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Had your dinner, all of you?
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Have you had your dinner?
Oh, yes. I had a chicken sandwich just before coming to the meeting.
So then you are energetic to give. Nice, that's fine.
Romy, have you had breakfast?
No, just now woke up. So I had some water.
Just woke up. Uh-huh.
I generally sleep around 3 o'clock every day, but today I forced to sleep around 12:30, 1 o'clock. Yeah.
So, Kathleen, do you hear all that noise?
Yeah, it's like a bell ringing or something.
Some pounding and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, Rami just I think it might have been something happening in India there.
I think this might be Beth's because it keeps showing Beth's.
Well, I'm on my front porch and I have wind chimes.
Oh, that's what it is.
Why don't you? Oh, that's what's the noise then.
There's wind chimes, but I'm charging my phone, so I hate to leave the room. Is it bothering everybody?
No. It's pretty loud. Maybe you could just mute for a little bit.
I can't mute. I don't have any mute button.
Oh, okay.
Button. I'm on the telephone.
Ah, right. Okay.
I'll just unplug my charger and go to another room, I guess.
Yeah, you can in another room.
It's kind of quiet now.
Well, there's not any wind blowing.
I had a nice week, actually. I don't know which particular day it was, but I was just sitting, meditating, and it happened after I had a wedding on September the 7th, and I got very involved in it. And then the following day, I was just meditating in the morning. And it became very clear that all that involvement was just the mind. And, somewhere along the line, I recalled Ramesh Balsakar's comment that the mind is the content of consciousness. And, the mind, everything in the mind, it's just all the content of consciousness. And then I thought about Nisargadatta, his advice to really focus on consciousness itself rather than the content. And all of a sudden, it just became very clear that everything is just all mind that I'm looking at. Everything that I'm seeing and feeling and perceiving and saying and doing, it's just simply the mind. And it felt very liberating to have that awareness and just be completely free of it. And, just the kind of like I know Ranjit would say, doing, I do nothing. And that was the way I felt, doing, I do nothing. And thinking, I think, thinking, I don't think, thinking, I don't think. Thinking a second, I'm not thinking. Thinking, I don't think. That kind of, just that sort of breaking away from just about everything. And also, just the idea that Mula Maya is simply pure consciousness, that is the illusion, the whole thing, which is why, of course, Ramakant would say with prior to beingness, But anyway, I know that we are living here in the body and so forth, and we, things are happening, we're doing things. So basically, we're not disembodied. So, but just to have that awareness was very, very helpful, actually. So anyway, just wanted to share that.
Good.
Can you all hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. It got so quiet, I thought that I got cut off.
I guess for me, it's how to keep the mind from turning back on, you know. So I'll be very quiet, and then all of a sudden the mind gets going and it goes on and on and on.
Let it run, but don't chase after it.
I do, though. You know, I've become immersed. It takes over, and it's running me.
But you're noticing that, Trish.
Not all the time. I may go, you know, I may wake up and say, oh, and realize I've been off immersed, you know, unconsciously babbling away.
Yes, you just come back.
Yeah, see, and immersing yourself in presence would be just like jumping into a jar of jam.
Jumping into a jar of jam.
Yeah. If you were able to, in a big jar, you jump into that jar of jam, because it's like the presence is just so thick that nothing is able to penetrate. Nothing is you're just with yourself with self. There's no activities, there's no anything. It literally, as if you were just to jump into a jar of jam. Boom. And there you are, just with surrounding yourself with the presence, the knowingness, the awareness, basically what Andrew was speaking about. Just being there, but not having any part in it, and just observing that all of this is in the mind. It's all going on in this consciousness. And this consciousness has appeared to you, the formlessness. So this jar of jam, if you were to say, jump into this jar of jam and surrounded by this presence, this sense of presence that is so incredibly, like as we're sitting in silence, I'm sure everyone's feeling just the thickness of the presence, that there's no other sensations coming through except this subtle presence, this thickness, this jam, this jelly, molasses, so to speak. If you were to jump into a jar of molasses, it's moving more slowly. All the things that are moving around are moving more slowly. So this mind that's trying to flow through, if that's in a molasses or a jam, it's kind of slower. It's not like, and it's very responsive too. Something is happening and you're right back to a background of silent awareness, and it appears and then disappears and appears and then disappears. So this mind can do whatever it likes. You don't run after it. You know, mind is running behind the cars. It's never catching the cars. It's just running, running, running. And you just say, okay, I'm not going to run along beside you. I know it's a futile something, and I'm just going to sit here just immersed in myself with self, that nectar of immortality that I'm just drinking in. Why to give myself away for some dog running after the car? And also the jar of jam or the molasses, you could say the chariot. If you're in a chariot and you start to run, you can't, you're in quicksand, basically. Mind wants to be the horses running away here and there, and you're in quicksand. You're not going anywhere. And say, okay, just do your thing. I'm here. Full, just with myself, with self. And literally that, there's no other way to describe that presence, that feeling that, yeah, it's like a bubble of joy, a bubble of just die, that existence, that sense of existence, that sense of aliveness, that awareness of presence is, I just can't see how a mind would be more entertaining or more attractive than yourself.
Everything becomes very quiet. When I feel that sense of presence, just things slow down. Really, if they really slow down, it becomes very, 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 very quiet. And you know, I see myself anticipating my next activity or whatever, and then if the presence is strong enough, it kind of stops me, and I just kind of like,
Yes.
you know, it's like you just stay right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like if you were to run off a cliff and jump into a jar of jam, boom, just suddenly you're like, oh, you're immersed. There's no nothing. You're immersed.
For me, I'm just in spaciousness around it all.
Yes. But the spaciousness is actually felt. There's a subtle, subtle feeling. Because you're using body form, and the body form is an instrument with which you can feel this presence.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes, you're using this body form. So this body form is a way you can, that I am, the sense of existence, the presence, the spirit, the consciousness, whatever you want to call it, you can feel it. It's like, as if the air had some kind of weight. It had some kind of space becomes an object in your awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. John,
Yes.
then even if you experience silence also, it's still duality. That means I still exist
Yes.
there. That is also not truth. So, is it everybody should first establish oneself in that consciousness as
Yes.
pure consciousness, and then only can be transcended or can be directly transcended.
Well, see, the position of I am, and this is Nisargadatta Maharaj has said this, you remain with I am. You continue to remain with I am, and then you start this sense of presence, this sense of existence, you keep remaining there. And then it clicks that you are aware of this. There is an awareness of the sense of presence. But at first, you become one with the presence, and you can feel, using this body form, you can feel the sense of presence. The I am. This is actually the trap that many spiritual seekers become into because they enjoy, here I am in meditation and I can feel the presence. This is a good first step. But this presence then becomes just so natural, just like just the same as air in the room. It just becomes a natural thing. And then you know that you're the knower of this sense of presence on which the entire world has arisen. And that's where you start to see from your position. But at first, of course, mantra, it invites the attention of the invisible listener. The invisible listener is that sense of presence that's subtly felt through body form. And this body form is an instrument, basically, and it's just like dipping a cup into the nectar and drinking. You're drinking of the selfless self-intoxication using this body as a cup to dip into that. Because it is duality, yes, a seeming duality, but in reality it is only the knower of presence. Presence has appeared. This is how they talk about the nothing and the something that's appeared, returning to nothing. This something is the bubble of illusion, the bubble of consciousness. And you know then that you are, because this presence has appeared to you. It had to appear. It wasn't. So this presence has appeared to you that knew nothing. There was nothing. There was a sense of existence, and the consciousness stirred, and the world was created. From that aspect, like dreaming, laying down in the nighttime, that subtle sense of existence mixes, explodes the consciousness, and suddenly you have a dream world. And you have people and you have objects in the dream world, and you may even see your own body in the dream world. But it's all coming from just that atom of nothingness that suddenly explodes into all of this. And this formlessness, like we talked about, the space in the room uses this dead body and suddenly becomes aware of the space in the room. But at the same time of becoming aware of the space in the room, a world is seen, objects and objects. But there's a misidentification that I'm an object inside the space rather than the space, which does not know it exists, suddenly realizing there's an existence, but I exist as this, because this is the first time that I knew of existence. So, but it's always there because that space clicked with the body. In that presence, all of the world appeared on that spontaneous presence, and it was this something that was created in the nothing. And basically, it wasn't even created because it's illusory. Everything that you know, everything that you've seen, all the activities, all the knowledge, all the school, all the people are objects in consciousness, and consciousness has appeared to you. You seem to be an object within the consciousness, but you are not. The consciousness is within you, not you as an individual. See, if you still believe yourself to be a body, mind, and consciousness in this body and all this, and it's individual, and I'm somehow having the experience of John, this is not it. It's everything that's experiencing itself as limited, but it's always everything. Because each object that's seen is another object in consciousness, in which consciousness is giving the power to move, to speak, to do all these things. And all of this appeared to you. All of everything that you've ever known. That's why they say it's illusion. It's zero, less than zero, nothing, 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 nothing. And except yourself, self, there's no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no master. Because none of these concepts were known until it clicked with the body and you became, oh, I'm aware of concepts, I'm aware of God, I'm aware of these things, but there was nothing other than your own selfless self until the illusion of duality was created through this concept, the very first concept, I exist.
Okay. I mean, I was like, can't we transcend directly, John? Like, rather than struggling, identifying oneself with the consciousness. See, now I identify myself with the forms and shapes in the it would be my room, it would be my job, it would be the people surrounded. So that means through beingness only all this recognition is happening. So instead of recognizing with the things, so I think through mantra, I think this is happening. Like recognition is trying to identify itself as recognition than any other things.
Yes. All the illusory concepts, including I am this body, are being slowly, silently, and permanently removed by a mantra, because the invisible listener is beginning to see all these illusory layers and discard, 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 discard. That's why mind is producing thoughts in form. If I'm not a form, then why am I listening to thoughts about form? I know myself in a real sense. That subtle sense of presence I can feel. Oh, so that this body, I am not. This body is an appearance in that presence, in that consciousness. And I have nothing to do with any of that. So when a thought comes about my job or my work, of course, like Maharaj says, do your job, do your duties. You don't quit your job and go off in the forest meditating or anything like that. Because that's actually egoistic, because then you're choosing to escape from life and going on this journey of meditation. Nisargadatta Maharaj tried that in the beginning. In his story, he said, I will go on the spiritual journey, left all his businesses and everything, and then went about. And one of the disciples said, wait, what are you doing? This is not the way. And then Nisargadatta came back, he had his stores, and that was it. You do not have to leave the life that you're living now, because the life that you're living now is just the basic everyday sort of things. It's the body-based living that is going to continue. And until this body exhausts itself and returns to the 5 elements, you'll continue to use a body form. But you absolutely know you're not body. And then see, you don't even have to keep telling yourself, just like when somebody says you're a man, and you say, you don't have to keep saying, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man. No, you recognize, oh, so that Now I can go about and do as I wish, knowing absolutely that it's all illusion. So that mind that keeps trying to give me the pointing of, oh, I need to be afraid of this, or I need to worry about this or something. How, what? It's a dream. I know this. I don't need to listen to this mind. And by disregarding and not listening to the mind, it naturally slows down. And the more it slows down, the more you're able to see that it's nothing. It has absolutely nothing to do. And see, mantra is so beautiful too, because as you continue with mantra and go about your daily activities, you will see that you're quite easily able to perform all these duties without the mind. There is really no need to take any identity to do your normal daily duties. Even when communicating with someone, you don't have to sit there and be like, okay, hold on. I have to be me in this moment to speak to you. No, it's a flow. And subtly you realize the world is an illusion. I don't need to take the touch of anything. Traffic is bad. Okay, I sit in the traffic. It is what it is. I can either have a good experience or bad experience in traffic based on my identification with being in it and how I want it to be different. Or I can sit and enjoy bhajan or enjoy some music, and the traffic is going to be what it is. My commute is good or bad based on my identification with the thoughts that are flowing about it, identified with them as this is my commute. See, that's the other thing. If I keep saying it's my life, it's not my life. It's life that's living in this form. Once I possess it and I say it's mine, then I really want to like, oh, this is happening to me. Oh, this is so bad over here. Oh, what if this happens? Maybe I grow up and I'm a loser. Who knows? But it's not my life. It's life that is here. It's a body form that the formlessness is using. It's not mine. It's my body, but there's no such thing as my life. Life is a series of scenes that are coming before you that you do the best of whatever it is that you can in the moment, and you leave it, and a new scene comes, and you do that, and you leave it. It's a series of scenes. The mind is what sits there and tries to build some kind of illusory timeline and tell you that this is going to cause this, is going to cause that. You have no idea what it's going to cause. You do what you do in the moment and leave it. That's why Maharaj says, you pick up the bottle, drink the water, and put it down. That's what we're speaking. Life is a series of scenes, and I don't have to be in it.
Okay.
Ramesh Balsekar once said that we're not living our life, we're being lived.
Yeah.
It helps when you think of us from that point of view too, because, you know, we're being lived, you know, so just sit back and
Yeah.
just let it happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to have a job. You need to do these things. You do this. Whatever's in front of you is taken care of. But there's no timeline of my life. And I don't take possession. Siddhar Mishra Maharaj talks about anything that you put mine on is going to automatically be like, ooh, mine. You know, everything. Just like in that movie Gollum, where he's like, oh, my precious, from Lord of the Rings. And he's totally infatuated because it's his, it's mine. So I don't say my life. There's a life that's being lived. As you said, life is living through this instrument. And I do the best I can in the moment, of course, but I don't take the touch. And I don't need a mind to sit there and tell me that this action is going to have this action, because if I do that, I am somebody else, and it is my life. And now it's become very, very heavy. It's no longer light, because it's my life. And that's why Maharaj talks about the ants. There's a feeling of existence of wanting to live and survive, and see, until you know that whether this body is or isn't, you are, just like the ant, when the ant is walking and they pour the water, the ant runs away, because consciousness in the form of an ant believes it will be finished if the body is finished. And in your body, you get to know this is absolutely not true. Because presence has appeared to something. Just like waking up, the waking state appeared to you who were never asleep. It's a one continuum. All these states are appearing to that has no states. The background. Behind every experience, your presence is. Your presence is providing the power, just like the electricity. And without any kind of, I like Andrew better, or I like Rami better, or I like Sandra better, or Kathleen better. No, it's just electricity. Each one is an instrument being moved around by the power. And the entire thing is just the bubble of illusion. All of this that we're seeing is not. That is always is. And now that we're in this, just like in a dream, if you were to sleep tonight and realize it's a dream, enjoy the dream. Do what you can in the dream, enjoy, but don't worry. You know, if you get a speeding ticket in your dream, you're not like, oh my God, how to pay this and this bill and that might get behind it. No, you know, oh, it's a dream. And of course, still you're going to, if you get a speeding ticket in this waking dream, you're going to just, okay, I got this ticket. And usually it's just, what's the next step? What to do next? Not to give it to the mind and have, you know, oh, how is this going to affect this or any of these sort of things. It's just in the moment. That's why your formlessness using form, and you remain formless by not identifying with the thoughts that are trying to pressurize you into being a limited body form. And mantra erases these thoughts slowly, silently, permanently, and the thoughtless state is just, it's thoughtless. There's no thoughts. You're just doing the things that need to be done, but without any sense of ownership, without any sense of doership, without anything. No thoughts, nothing. The space in the room is using this body to have a drink of water. That's it. Because the space couldn't have a drink of water, nor could it come up with the concept that it would be thirsty. But the body form that you're using, that the space in the room is using, the thought comes, I'm thirsty. So I pick up the water and put it down. And these are all just, it's spontaneous actions in the moment. The sense of doership usually comes after, when the mind has said, oh, I've done this good thing, or oh, I've done this bad thing. And that comes from mom and dad in the early stages as the egoistic sense was being developed. When mom and dad said, oh, you're doing very good thing, or oh, you're doing very bad thing, you started getting this kind of cause and effect, punishment and reward, pleasure and pain. But you're out of all of that. And you don't need to seek. You're just here. You're just right here, right now. There's no seeking anything. You just are. Be with you always. Don't give yourself away for passing illusory things because you know it's illusion. If you have not had the direct experience yet that it's illusion, you've heard Master. Master says the entire world is illusion. It appears upon your spontaneous presence. So if you haven't had the direct experience of this yet, you just know, oh, the entire world's illusion. And you will see naturally that the thoughts about the illusory world start to slow down because you're no longer buying them. And that comes in with Sri Ramakant Maharaj saying, you must have courage and complete trust and faith in the Master. And the Master, Sri Ramakant Maharaj, is that selfless self that you are, which in another form identified itself and said to you, you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. That's why Master says he's the mirror. You're seeing your reflection. Your reflection is because Maharaj sitting there is not sitting there. He knows he doesn't have the touch of body that he's sitting there speaking with you. He's the formlessness that's using form to speak, but there's no touch of I'm speaking or I'm teaching. He is that selfless self, as are you. And the less touch you have of body, you'll have, like Andrew was talking about, the experience that, oh yeah, it is just the formlessness, and all this form is moving about, but it's all inside myself, the self, and there's not a really, I don't really need to think about or do anything.
Yeah, by taking the touch, you're creating the me that is upset about everything.
Yeah, and it's all illusory because you're formless.
Yeah.
The invisible, unidentified, anonymous identity, what is it to be upset about? When you know yourself in the real sense, this formless sense of presence, how is that formless sense of presence affected by anything? There could be a nuclear blast and the presence wouldn't be affected in the least bit. That's why I think the Gita says it cannot be cut, it cannot be burned, it cannot be nothing, because it's presence, it's formless, there's nothing. It cannot have anything happen to it. There has to be identification with an object where something could happen, such as birth and death, but that attached to the body never is born and never dies. It's formless. How can the formlessness be born or die? The space in this room, when was it not?
Isn't it kind of like the only, well, this is being put in words, it's the only thing that can be, it's the only thing that cannot be. It's like you can't not be, but it can't be, well, it can't be according to words, but it also can't not be, otherwise there couldn't be anything.
You are the knower of the sense of presence and also the knower of the absence of the sense of presence.
Right.
That's why they talk about manifest and unmanifest. In order for manifest to be there, there would have to be unmanifest, because manifestation arose from that nothing, unmanifest state. And you're the knower of both.
Yeah, I was getting a sense of it, that that which is like kind of like behind everything, but it's not anything today. I was sort of.
Yeah. That subtle sense of presence. And again, yes, it's like Maharaj has said, it seems like duality, but it's not really duality. Because you're not this body that you believe yourself to be. So the subtle sense of presence is sort of touching itself using an instrument. Like you can't weigh yourself unless you have a scale. Well, this body is the measuring of this sense of presence. You can feel the sense of presence. The just I. And that, like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, if you remain with the I am, all the doors are open, and you absolutely see. And then you start to see that behind this presence is myself, the self. Presence has appeared, and then when the body is no more, presence will disappear for you. But it appears and disappears, just like everything. Everything in the illusion appears and disappears. Nothing is constant, except for your selfless self. And that's the invisible, unidentified, anonymous identity. And like Maharaj says, you can't use any of the senses. You'll suddenly feel this sense of presence. And you'll feel it when it's not covered with the illusory thought process. As long as you're having illusory thoughts and illusory, and see, that's why through the knowledge you say, the world is illusion. Absolutely illusion, including this body form which is perceiving the world. All of that is illusion. Master has said it's illusion. So when a thought comes in about the illusory world, I don't have to pay it so much attention. Eventually the thoughts will start to slow. And as that thoughts start to slow, the covering on your presence will cease. And then there will be direct recognition of, oh, so that I. That subtle sense of presence I spoke about. When I went to Maharaj, I had already started feeling this subtle sense of presence. And to me, that presence was my concept of God. And that presence was, I started worshiping that presence, and I understood then that that presence was speaking in the form of Sri Ramakant Maharaj. I was going to have the privilege to go and surrender to the God of my understanding, that sense of presence in the form of Maharaj at his feet, and surrender. And then this Maharaj says, you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. Presence is, you are not. And it's just like, oh, so that I. So if I am not body, I was not body, and I'm not going to remain the body, and yet I'm starting to sense this subtle presence, then presence is, and I am not. Only presence is. And because this presence is subtle and formless, it's in every being. I know this because it's like the space in the room. The space in the room doesn't discriminate and say, oh, I'm not going to go into the hallway. I only like the kitchen. No, the space in the room, it pervades everything.
It's not like it's limited to being in Ramakant. It's not only.
That's correct. Even I think I mentioned when Ramakant Maharaj left the body, again, I was very sad. This was like a father figure to me. But then the thought, as I'm driving in the car, this overwhelming kind of thought impression came, oh, no, no, no. It's not that Maharaj has rejoined. No. The everything that was limited for a time and spoke through the body of Sri Ramakant Maharaj is now no longer limited by the body of Sri Ramakant Maharaj. And the same will occur in this body. That is everything will no longer be limited to this small body form. But it never really is. It's only my false misidentification that I'm a body. If I'm a body, then I believe that the air inside me is mine. But if I'm not a body, and I know that the air is just flowing, and it's flowing inside Kathleen and Andrew and Rami and Sandra, it's not my air. But when it comes in here, it's mine. Because I identification with the body, I say, this body is mine. This air that I'm breathing, that's my air. It's not my air. It's only my air because my mind has labeled this air that is everything into being mine. It's taken the everything and tried to limit it only through concept. The air doesn't know that I believe that it's my air. You know, it doesn't say, oh, this is only John's air, so we better hang close to John. No, it's like the air is everywhere. It comes inside this body and outside this body. It never is mine. It pervades everything.
It was occurring to me today that it's similar to hypnotism. It's like I'm hypnotized into believing that the relative and the dualistic aspects of presence have being. It's like a hypnotism that kind of words and language contributes a lot to it.
Yes, and that's why Maharaj says, you were hammered into the belief of being a body. Now you need to hammer yourself into the reality. You need to refresh your memories. Because all your existence, you've been hammered into belief that this is a body, and I'm this body, and I have to have this job. This is water. I may or may not like this water because, you know, I need flavor to this water to make it more flavorful. All the body needs, I take as my needs. All the body things, the wants, You cannot have any desires at all in your formless reality. Because what to desire? It's all objects appearing within you. What's not yours, or what is yours? How can the formlessness possess anything? Only the false idea of being a body can possess.
It's totally impersonal.
Yes.
Completely. That helps a lot, because when you really look at it from that point of view, it's absolutely impersonal. It really kind of snuffs out the individual,
yes,
kind of to somebody.
But also it makes me smile too. It makes the body and mind smile if I connect with it, or if I send I don't know how to put it into words. It's just something. It's like the absurdity of believing it's limited or something makes me smile.
Accept yourself as self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no master, no disciple. Nothing is there except formless you, in which all of this has appeared on your spontaneous presence. Everything that you see is illusion.
It helps to think about before we were born, before we came while we were in the womb, before we could speak, and in dreamless sleep. That helps. The formless the awareness was happening to nobody. And then we became a somebody, and then we took ownership.
Yes. And while you were in the womb, you weren't sitting there worried about whether your ears were developing correctly, or your toes. Do I have all 10 of my toes or whatever? It was just naturally progressing, spontaneous.
It was just happening. Life was happening.
Yes.
Without the mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
In actual sense, if we sit and observe, there is no I at all. Just thoughts come and flow. Sensations are there. There is no I at all. Don't know how this sense of ego comes into the play and take the ownership. Really, it's magic. Don't know how it happened.
Yeah, like Maharaj says, spirit clicked with the body and you say I. The first time you ever knew of the existence was in body form. And then immediately all the mom and dad and everybody started using labels for things, started teaching you about the world, and started teaching you all about all the different various objects. And then instilled in you, you come into the world and you're terrified. It's like, oh, what's happening? And Maharaj talks about this. Then they give the baby like a little bit of milk or a little bit of chocolate. Be happy, and then it's satisfied. But then you start learning that all this stuff is there. This entire world is there for me to go out and investigate, for me to learn about. I'm impressed on all angles to go and discover this world. As a small child, you see the baby walking on the floor and bumping into things and all this kind of stuff. And there's awareness, but not awareness of me as a separate object. There's just like now moving about, and that's it. But as I start to, in a body form, sort of get these concepts, one concept births another concept and another concept. I'm told that I need to go out and explore the world, learn about the world, and experience the world for myself. And so I'm so caught up in looking outwards that I never bother ever again to see where all the source of all this is coming from. Until one moment there's a turn for whatever reason. Something happens in the life, some kind of something, and you say, oh, there has to be more to this. And that's when the internal investigation begins. And then as you're more and more earnest and you want to know the truth, that's when the presence that you are manifests in the form of the teacher and the guru and the books that you're reading and the recognition and the projection. and that's the end. It's like being unborn, basically. But unborn meaning there was a birth of a body, and now you have to sort of trace it back to the source. Oh yeah, before I had to go out and learn about the world and explore the world and all this kind of stuff, I'm the source of all of this. The first thought was I exist, and that was a concept. And all of these concepts were built on that concept. Therefore, none of it can be true.
So just now you said, I exist, on this everything is built.
Yes.
So therefore everything is illusion. Could you elaborate on this?
Everything is illusion because that first stirring of I exist, the spontaneous presence, has appeared. There's a stirring. Who knows why or how? There's just all of everything. There's nothing other. Then there's a stirring I exist. And in the split second of I exist, boom, the world is created. We're not talking about from an individual point of existence. This is happening within the consciousness that the idea of experiencing existence is occurring because it occurs over and over and over again as this first thought, this primal illusion. They talk about Maya. This that you are births the world through the concept of I exist. And then the body and all these sort of things. But it's not an individual, remember, because that's a tough one when you say, oh, well, when I was born, I remember this. But you were never born. There was nothing in which the something appeared. Inside this something, there were multitudes of forms that are seemingly born and appear. But all of it is your own selfless self. It's appearing inside the consciousness, the bubble of illusion. None of it ever is or was or can be. Nothing has ever happened because everything that's happening is inside the consciousness, and the consciousness appeared to you who has no sense of existence whatsoever other than just I exist. And then all of this will be finished. It's gone. There's nothing. But it had to appear to something. That something is you. And that's why you know yourself in a real sense as the formless presence. Is when I know myself as the formless presence and I can sort of say, okay, the space in the room, if this body falls, is the space in the room affected at all? No. For a time, the space in the room knew the existence through the limited body form. But when the body form is no more, the space is still there. It just doesn't know itself because there's nothing other than it to know. And then the seeing of all of the objects that are seen when I click with the body are no more because there's no one. There's nothing. It's boom. Because this is an illusory experience. And the egoistic sense of self that does not exist tries so hard to cling to everything to try and validate its existence because it is not. It wants to live forever, but it never was. So how can anything that never was live forever? That's when they talk about the child of a barren woman. This child of a barren woman wants to live forever.
It's like the ego thinks it knows what life is, something.
Well, again, it's all the, like if you look at a Christmas tree, you see all the ornaments and all the lights and all the dangling, you totally forget the tree. You're brought into the world by all the different movements and all the different things, and you forget that the background of all of this is on your spontaneous presence.
You can be so wrapped up in thought.
Yes.
That
talk about things that don't exist. Think about that. Think about all the things that don't actually exist and how much illusory time you spend thinking about illusory objects that are not in existence, that you worry might cause distress in the existence that you are not having.
Oh, dear.
The invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity. What thoughts is it thinking when it knows itself in a real sense?
But then something happens and I get a pain and then I believe it's me. You know?
Well, pain is the body and you're the power that supplies. You have the sensory organs. Just like antenna of an ant. An ant goes out and feels around, and there's a sensory experience of, oh, there's something in front of me, and I understand that. The formlessness is feeling the pressures of the body and the sensations of the body. This will always be, as long as you're holding the body form. But you simply know, just like, and that's why Nisargadatta Maharaj, as he was dying of cancer, he said, no, this body is having the cancer. I'm not involved. It's the same as the neighbor's child. It's not mine. And there you go back again. It's not my body and my life that has the cancer. Cancer is here in this form that I currently am using, that is leased for a very short time in the reality of all eternity. Whoa.
Oh, it looks like it might be time, John.
Yes, indeed. I just saw that. It's 8:21.
Okay, thank you very much.
And everyone, thank you.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
your evening.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Jai Guru. Thank you.